We are in a region characterized by one of the only continental hotspots in the world.
One early traveler called it the strangest 75 square miles in North America.
He could not believe that this undiscovered land existed in Idaho.
This is where harmony was, and this is what the spirits did.
The vast region known as Craters of the Moon encompasses 750,000 acres of lava flows, sagebrush, rolling hills, and a few surprises.
How many places can you go snowshoeing and say, well, not only did I go snowshoeing, but I summited the top of a volcano in winter?
Idaho's beautiful, but Craters is a special gem.
Join us as we explore the unearthly landscape of Craters of the Moon.
Funding for Outdoor Idaho is made possible by your contributions to the Friends of Idaho Public Television and by the Corporation for Public Broadcasting.
Early pioneers went out of their way to avoid this dark, desolate landscape. This area held nothing for them. And yet, years later, adventurers like Robert Limbert believed that Craters of the Moon would make a great national park. Hi, I'm Bruce Reichert, and welcome to Outdoor Idaho. This area is still not a national park, but Craters of the Moon is a national monument managed by the National Park Service. And for most of us, it's probably as close as we're ever going to get to a trip to the moon.
There's so many things you could see around here, just phenomenal.
Geologist Scott Hughes scampers down the side of a wind-blown volcano with all the curiosity of a 6-year-old.
In terms of geology, this is so much alive because it's so fresh and so clear and so clean, and we know that another eruption could happen any moment.
Craters of the Moon is one of the world's foremost outdoor classrooms. It sits on the Great Rift, a 60-mile volcanic zone that extends across the Snake River Plain in southern Idaho. Ages ago, various forces caused sections of the Great Rift to pull apart and crack. Molten lava shot up in a curtain of fire.
Craters of the Moon began erupting about 15,000 years ago and has last erupted about 2,000 years ago. We are in a region characterized by one of the only continental hotspots in the world. That continental hotspot is currently at Yellowstone National Park. But 8 or 10 million years ago, that hotspot was out here on this part of the Snake River Plain.
8 eruptive periods over 13,000 years created a line of volcanic cinder cones. Cinder cones have sloping sides reaching as high as 700 feet. The other main type of volcano in the area is a spatter cone. These are shorter with steeper sides. Geologists have identified more than 60 different and distinct lava flows that make up the area's extensive lava fields. Each eruption, with its unique characteristics of time and temperature, left a geologic story, frozen forever in stone,
and ready for all to read.
This is what geologists do in the field all the time. They're always trying to make judgment calls or observations of relative ages. What happened when, why did it happen, and what's the difference?
Craters of the Moon got its name from scientific observation. In the late 1800s, local residents thought the area looked the way the surface of the Moon looked when viewed through a telescope. The Apollo astronauts even trained here before heading to the Moon.
Okay, you're right. Camel's on the surface, and it's been a long way, but we're here. This is really a wild place up here.
Now we know the Moon's surface is not the same as craters of the Moon.
This area still makes a great training ground for planetary geologists because the soil is loose. Most of the material is rocks that are strewn around as if they were laid there after an impact. I think of this as a very alive landscape in a geologic sense because it is continually changing, continually evolving, hopefully without a whole lot of human influence because the landscape is very fragile and right now pristine.
For the Shoshone and Bannock peoples, Craters of the Moon National Monument is not just a geologic oddity or a tourist attraction. This area, the plants and animals, even the land itself, is a part of their traditions and life.
We use lava rocks in our sweat lodges. And it's the lava rocks that send our prayers up to the Creator. And so it's very sacred to us, very sacred.
The ancient ancestors of today's Shoshone Bannocks actually witnessed the land's fiery transformation. Their oral traditions, passed down through generations, explain the origins of Craters of the Moon.
The legend is supposed to be told during the winter. We held a prayer here asking the Creator to forgive me for talking out of season on these legends. Before the Craters of the Moon was actually formed, it used to be a huge mountain. The Shoshone Bannocks knew that there was a giant serpent out here. But he was a big one. He was very huge. And the Shoshone Bannocks was frightened of this serpent. One day, the serpent coiled around the mountain just to sun himself. And as he was sunning himself, thunderclouds came in on him. And then the lightning started bouncing around, which kind of annoyed him. So he coiled himself so tight, the mountain started melting into lava. Well, the serpent knew what he did, so he tried to get away from it. But because the serpent was a slow mover, the hot lava that he created when he coiled around the mountain caught up to him and burned him. Even today, as you drive through the highway road here, you can actually see the remnants of that serpent. That was the start of Craters of the Moon. What's unique, it's protected. Maybe this might be one of the last strongholds to hold on to our native plants. We do believe in those legends, and hopefully talking about these legends, that our young people will listen to it, have the true respect for this area, keep the serpent alive here in our sacred grounds here.
Until the early 1900s, Craters of the Moon was a big blank spot on the map. Though Native Americans used the region, white settlers avoided it. But about 1915, reports of a rare type of grizzly bear attracted the attention of Boise taxidermist and adventurer Robert Limbert.
He could not believe that this undiscovered land existed in Idaho. It had never been mapped, no one had ever seen it before, and it changed his life being out here. It totally changed the direction of his life.
Limbert fell in love with the area. He traveled its length, he photographed it and wrote about it in National Geographic magazine. He worked tirelessly to promote the region. In 1924, the same year that Limbert's National Geographic magazine article appeared, President Calvin Coolidge signed a proclamation creating Craters of the Moon National Monument. But after his untimely death in 1933, Limbert's contributions to the creation of Craters of the Moon National Monument faded away. That is, until decades later, when historians rediscovered his remarkable collection of pictures and writings. Filmmaker Steve Wursta produced a documentary of Limbert's life, and his explorations into Limbert's past led him on a journey of his own, a journey to find Limbert's Lost Valley.
It all started in 1861 when an Idaho pioneer, George Goodhart, was apparently taken blindfolded into this valley where the Shoshone would hide during times of war. And only when he was inside the valley was he allowed to see, and all he could describe it as this valley with red cliffs, walls. And many, many decades later, he tried to lead 2 other trips into this area, trying to find where he was, never could locate it.
But Limbert thought he might know where it was. So he took a group of 14 men and women on an adventure to find the Lost Valley.
They came out here and over a period of 10 days explored the area and went incredibly deep into the lavas and did find the Lost Valley.
Although Limbert wrote about their journey, he never left clear directions. And so the Lost Valley remained lost until Wursta tracked down the diary of one of Limbert's fellow explorers, Joseph Yolo.
Based on that information and the coordinates that we uncovered from Limbert, we came out here 80 years to the date in May and made a trek to the Lost Valley. As we started hiking, it kept getting further and further away. It was like someone had a zoom lens and we kept getting pulled away. I guess it gave new respect for Limbert and what he accomplished. Until you've actually walked a mile, you have no idea what it's like to be out here. It just tears your shoes up. It is hot, it's dry, and you're really hoping that somewhere you're going to find water. So when we were getting closer to the Lost Valley, I decided to do an end run around the rest of the group because I wanted to be there first. And I cut across to this huge, huge cinder mound, and when I got up to the top of this ridge line, I looked down and it was this beautiful, I guess what you would call a valley, but what in fact what it was is an area of very, very smooth lava. As it turned out, we ended up setting up a camp right where Limbert and his party camped 80 years to the date. And when we read the diary later that night, we realized that they also chose it because it was such a beautiful spot. We don't know how long ago someone had piled lava rocks up to make a windbreak and a fire ring. As we moved on further, we found the cave that was found by Joseph Yolo. The logs inside the cave had not been disturbed. We have a photograph and it matches the one taken 80 years ago. I don't know, it gave me a little bit of a chill because nobody in 80 years had seen these photographs or the diary. And here we are, we felt like we were with them. It was just that exciting. I mean, we all enjoyed the moment.
Craters of the Moon National Monument encompasses about 54,000 acres. The stark landscape is home to a variety of plants and animals. With thousands of visitors annually, naturalists monitor the impact of humans on this wilderness. And they say the health of craters may be gauged by some of its smaller inhabitants.
Well, let's head down the road and see what we can find. It's glorious.
Today, volunteers gather in an area not usually open to the public. They've come to count butterflies. The foothills of the Pioneer Mountains are part of Craters of the Moon Monument because Leech Creek is the area's primary water source, and it is the perfect place to look for butterflies.
But right there, this guy, this peach-colored one, butterflies are pollinators. Butterflies are food units for other animals. You know, they're part of the web of life, and as such, when you lose any part of the web, the entire web is less strong. We're counting them because they go through 4 life stages. As an egg, as a larva, as a pupa, and as an adult, they have different needs of the environment. So the presence of a butterfly can tell you a lot about what's going on in the environment.
The North American Butterfly Association sponsors a butterfly count across the nation each year.
Butterflies are often quite sensitive to changes in the system, whether it's pollution or changes in the plant communities.
Oh, check this out.
Today, no one is using a net. The idea of this hunt is to capture the creatures on film.
And I spooked that one. It's a lot like archery hunting. But it's got a good long season. Oh my gosh, that's gorgeous. Right on. Now we're photographing. Yeah, get him, Mike. Wiedemeyer's Admiral. I mean, what a cool butterfly. Black and white. How boring, but how beautiful. It's a species of concern. It needs healthy, intact riparian systems, specifically the willows that occur within them.
Here at Craters of the Moon, we know very little about the insect communities, whether it be butterflies or ants or bees. And so the more information that we can have on what is here, the better we can preserve those things.
Did you all see it? Please come in. It's really beautiful. It's right here. Purplish coppers, they're our most common copper in Idaho, and so what? They're beautiful. I mean, wonderful animals. And it's, you know, it's always cool to see animals exhibiting any behavior.
Today, volunteers identified 14 different types of butterflies.
Set it down.
That's pretty good work for a couple of hours and a couple hundred yards.
I guess ultimately, what a wildlife experience we had today. We saw a lot of wildlife, and we never really ranged that far. There's a lot of wildlife in Idaho if you're willing to take the time to find it.
Craters of the Moon is also home to an abundance of unique plant life. In the nooks and crannies of the lava flows, a showy display of wildflowers and hardy plants thrive. They've adapted to life without much water and with surface temperatures that can exceed 150 degrees Fahrenheit.
This is a dusty maiden. It's called swelling plant. Native Americans would make a poultice out of the plant material to control swelling. So when you begin to learn plants out here, you find there's a pharmacy as well as a grocery store.
Park Ranger Douglas Owen leads sisters Mary Murphy and Gail Voigt on a wildflower tour.
I love just looking at the flowers and that, and it's just kind of interesting to know what medicinal purposes and that it has been used in the past, to understand how the past civilizations have survived without the age of the pills.
We have several interesting plants, some that are food sources like this and the desert parsley, and one over here is quite toxic. This is larkspur. It kind of has this spur that comes off the back of the flower. Native Americans made a solution you could use to kill lice. Here's some more really interesting plants. This one with this very serrated leaf is called hawksbeard, and you can actually use these leaves much like you use dandelion greens in a salad.
I've quite often looked at wildflowers but never knew anything about them or knew what they were called. It's nice to have a guide that can tell you this stuff. You can take a book, but a lot of times when you look at the books you can't really tell for sure what it is, and so it just makes it easier.
Come on in and take a look at this plant. This one's really kind of interesting. If you feel the leaves, you're going to feel sticky. The leaves are protected from moisture loss by the oils, but the Native Americans found that those same oils had a wonderful property. If you rub those oils on your skin, It's a natural insect repellent.
It's just a real learning experience and great exercise, getting out and enjoying nature, and it's something that anybody can do no matter what their age is. I've never seen any place like Craters of the Moon. It's just a totally different environment and really exciting to see.
Winters at Craters of the Moon are filled with contrasts. White crystalline snow against twisted black rocks. Daytime temperatures in the 20s, dipping down to extremes of 40 below at night. Winter is Craters' calm season. Less wind, fewer people, and a chance to slow down. The snow not only insulates the plants and animals from freezing temperatures, it also provides the monument's major source of water. Drifts deep in caves can last well into the summer, and water freezing and thawing are the biggest agents of change here in the park. As water expands, it cracks the rocks apart, giving plants one more place to grow. Roughly the same altitude as Sun Valley, Craters is a cross-country skier's paradise, with miles of groomed trails and a view like no other. The monument has had a winter program for adults for years. Then officials decided it was important to open up low-cost opportunities for kids.
So we partnered with the Winter Wildlands Alliance, and were able to acquire a bunch of snowshoes in kid sizes. And so we became one of the first snow schools in Idaho, and we've had a good response for our first year of having elementary, junior high, and high schools come out and utilize the park here in winter.
I just happened to see this, that they offered the snow school, and learn a little bit about the history of this area. So I thought this would be a great experience for the fourth graders to come out and enjoy part of Idaho.
Gather around me so you can see how to put them on. You're going to pull on this so you can get your toe in. Make sure your toe's going to clear in the front.
Many of these fourth graders from Du Bois, Idaho are strapping on snowshoes for the first time.
For me, as far as education is concerned, hands-on is very important. And, it's one thing to talk about, it's another thing to actually see it and touch it and feel it and do it. And then that makes the learning so much more important. So, yeah, that's very important for the kids to come out and do things like this.
Does anybody know what that tall mountain over there in the clouds is? It is a volcano. Anybody know the name of it? Big something Butte. What's the middle word? Volcano? No. Big Southern Butte. This is a piece of an old volcano. Those blocks you can see out over in there we call Devil's Orchard. Those are pieces of the volcano that got carried off kind of like an iceberg and floated away on really thick and pasty lava. What did we say we're standing on? A little piece of a volcano. So what do you think that is? That's a big volcano. That one's called North Crater. The one with the lollipop on top over there is called Inferno. Big trail to the top. And this volcano over here is called Paisley. The dynamics of this place, both geologically and the adaptations of life to cope with this harsh volcanic terrain, and then superimpose, high desert environment on top of it. It's just remarkable. Life finds a way, to cope with any environment. Who made these tracks? And how can you tell? You can look down and you can see the individual little pads on the foot, and it's a little tiny foot. So it's our little doggy rather than our medium-sized doggy. So this is a fox track here. Very good, brainiacs.
I think people should come here in the winter because I learned that animals, they have little tracks and big tracks, and I learned which animals hibernate and which animals migrate and which animals just adapt to the winter seasons.
How many places can you go snowshoeing and say, well, not only did I go snowshoeing, but I summited the top of a volcano in winter?
When you come out here and look around, this is an area that probably hasn't changed much.
this is the way it was. And that's what I love about this. You can kind of get a feel about what the first Europeans saw, what the Native Americans saw when they lived here, why they love this area so much. It is beautiful out here. How can you not love coming out here and spending time out here? Hopefully they develop an appreciation for the outdoors and monuments like this, and that they'll want to keep coming out here and they'll want to preserve it the way it is.
Funding for Outdoor Idaho is made possible by your contributions to the Friends of Idaho Public Television and by the Corporation for Public Broadcasting. All Outdoor Idaho programs are available for purchase, including hour-long specials called Idaho Edens, Lewis and Clark Crossing the Centuries, and Idaho and Angler's Paradise. To order, call our toll-free number. For more details about this show and other Idaho Public Television offerings, look for us on the World Wide Web.